forgive me tonight. I'm really bad with a microphone. I'm not sure quite what to do. Sometimes I might smother it a little bit, and sometimes you might not be able to hear me, so just bear with me a little bit. Kind of like, you ever seen Talladega Nights? Anybody seen Talladega Nights out here? Kind of like Ricky Bobby in front of the camera. I don't know what to do with my hands. So that's how I am with a microphone. So, did anybody watch any football this weekend? We got any Mississippi State fans in the house? All right, that's what I'm talking about. We'll stop there. No, I'm just kidding. We got any Ole Miss Rebel Black Bear Land Sharks in the house? We don't have that many. That's a really good thing. No, but in all seriousness, both Mississippi teams had big-time victories this weekend. They beat people that traditionally had just stomped on us, year after year. So they won some big-time fights. But how many of you guys know that didn't start this weekend? They didn't just show up and decide, hey, we're going to win today. They didn't just come out with a bunch of scrubs and win that game. Those victories started years ago in recruiting. They started back in the spring with some intense spring practices. They started in August, in the hot August sun, doing two-a-days. They started with great game preparation. They were ready for everything the other teams had to throw out. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight, and how to basically how to prepare and how to reap the benefits of what we've sown into our life. So guys, the verse I'm going to start out with tonight, pull it up on my phone here. Well, looks like I've got a few emails since I sent Josh my outline here.
It's behind you.
Oh, awesome! Thank you! All right. So, Galatians 6, 7, and 8 says, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Whoever sows to please the flesh, from the flesh, will reap destruction. Whoever sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit, will reap eternal life. So basically what Paul is saying there is, you reap what you sow. But what does that mean? What does sow mean? And what does reap mean? Some of you probably don't know. I know I didn't know at one point. I hate sitting in a church service and someone sitting there spitting out verses. I don't really know exactly what he's talking about. What's going on right now? So basically what he's talking about with sow. Sow is where you plant the seed. It's where you plant the seed, take care of the seed, cultivate the seed, and reap is the good part. It's where you harvest. Some of you probably, the only time you've ever heard the word reap is the Grim Reaper. Well, that's actually what you usually do when you go out in the field to reap the crop. They used to have a little scythe, which is like a stick with a blade, a curved blade on it, and they would cut the wheat or whatever crop it was that had been planted. So that's basically the meaning of it. And so we actually, we do that in our lives. So we plant certain things in our lives, we with certain actions, certain behaviors, and then we reap those later. So let me tell you a little bit about my life and how I've reaped some of the positive and negative things in my life. So I don't really have a flashy story. Pretty normal, average, everyday life. I was blessed with two phenomenal parents, a great family. And my story, I would say, really starts in the 8th grade. We had a summer camp at the church I grew up in. And we called it Jesus Week. It's kind of like Motion, except we stayed at the church all week rather than going to a youth camp. And so every day we would get up, we would go do service work, we'd go plant flowers, pull weeds, various things. And then we'd go out and we'd go bowling afterwards. We would go to the zoo. When we'd have a good time, we'd kind of fellowship and celebrate together. And then later on in the evening, we would have worship time and we would have a message. And that particular week, a guy by the name of Phil Newberry came to speak to us. He was the youth pastor at Bellevue Baptist Church. And one of the messages he spoke that week was, you reap what you sow. And he repeated that like probably 20 times in that message. And it really had a great impact on me. And so did a lot of the other messages that week. And later on that summer, I gave my life to God. It was a great feeling, as many of you probably know. I rode that emotional and spiritual high for a while. A lot of times you go on the spiritual high and you only know what I'm talking about if you've ever accepted Christ. So that really kind of lasted into my 9th grade year. And actually I had a great high school experience. I had great friends. I had an awesome youth group. And the youth group is probably what carried me through high school and allowed me to live a mostly godly life. Now don't get it twisted. I was still human. I was still doing wrong behind closed doors when nobody was around. But I was really able to live out a Christian life to my classmates at school. And people took notice of it. And I was known for that. And it was great. It made me feel good. I probably took some, wrongfully so, I probably took some personal pride in that. I met people in college that were like, hey, you're that guy that didn't go to parties. You're that guy that didn't cuss. Well, I didn't cuss in front of them, but, I probably, somebody pulled out in front of me on the road, I probably threw out a few words. But, high school was great. And again, I really attribute that to listening to the right music. I didn't listen to just Christian music, but I listened to some great music. Some Chris Tomlin, Reliant K, Audio Adrenaline. These are all older bands. Some of you probably know a little bit of them, but they've been around a while when I started listening to them. So I got through high school and started college. Started my first semester at college. And I started drifting away from church a little bit. I started having papers due, midterms, big tests. You guys know a little bit about that. I know a lot of our 180 leaders know about that as well. A lot of us have been through college. We know how tough that can be. But I didn't have my youth group around anymore. I just had Sunday school with me. When I went to Sunday school, we only had about 5 people or so in the Sunday school class. I really lost interest. I didn't really get the messages at church, and a lot of that was probably some of my own fault. But I just wasn't connected, and I lost my connection to God. And then the second part of the first semester of college, I met this beautiful redhead named Melissa Turner at the time. And little did I know that she would change my life forever. On our first date, we talked for probably 3 hours in my mom's Explorer. Now let me clarify this. I was driving the Explorer. My mom wasn't there with us. So I was going on dates by myself at 18 years old. But one thing that stuck out to me about Melissa is she had a desire to have a relationship with God, and that's something I didn't see in a lot of other girls at that age. So after that night, we went on several more dates. We wound up dating for a while. But we let the world get in the way of our walk with God. We started visiting each other's churches at first. Again, we didn't feel that connection. We didn't feel like we had a home. I drifted away from my home church. She drifted away from hers. And after a while, we kind of use that as an excuse. We're like, oh, we just don't feel at home anymore. This just isn't right. We just don't feel at home. And then we compounded that along with the other stuff we had in our life, and before you know it, we weren't going at all. And I really started to see a change then. I really pretty much eliminated Christian music from my life. And guys, I'm not saying that Christian music and going to church is what a relationship with God is all about. Ultimately, it's about communication. But it's something that you do daily that keeps you focused on God, that helps you commit to God. And I really started seeing a difference in my life after that. I had friends tell me they had seen a change in me. I was angry all the time. Melissa can tell you. I had this anger about me, and I don't know where it came from. I was depressed. I was mad. I hadn't achieved anything that I wanted to achieve. You know, I was lost. And then we got invited to South Point Church by my mom. And my mom actually worked with Pastor Craig. And so we came the first Sunday, and we were like, man, that was great. That was interesting. I'd never seen a preacher that looked like that. I was like, man, this guy's got long hair. He's wearing a t-shirt. Like, what's up with this? And he really spoke the word with conviction. He spoke the word with nothing added and nothing taken away. And we loved that. But we started going off and on, and we kind of had one foot in the door and one foot out. We never really committed. And then finally, the church moved over here to the theater where we're at now. And we started attending a little more consistently. And eventually, Melissa and I got engaged. And it was shortly after we got engaged that we talked about God needs to be the number one thing in our marriage. Because if God is not the number one thing in our marriage, that we're going to fail. You know, there's so many distractions out there. Josh talked about the distractions in our Christian walk last week. And he talked about the weeds that come up out of our crop yield and the bad things that come along that mess us up. And, we wanted to avoid that. And as we started making Christ the center of our life, we started attending church more. And then in turn, it was like a cyclical thing. Like we started attending church more. Then we found ourselves more committed to God. It was like we were committing our time to the church. And so we were committing our time to God, and we developed a much stronger relationship with God. And it seems like the more and more, the closer we get to God, the closer we get in our marriage. And that's really changed us. And we've reaped the benefits of those good actions that we've sown, and the commitment to God that we started. So tonight, I want to talk to you about how do you reap what you sow? How do you sow positive things in your life and reap the benefits? I have 4 things for you tonight. And the first of that is choose your friends carefully. Now, these suggestions, these aren't the set only things you do to live a godly life. There's probably a lot of people in this room out here in the back that could tell you better than I could. There's probably people in this county that could tell you better than I could how to live a godly life. But these are a few suggestions for you as middle school and high school students on how to do that. So again, Choose your friends carefully. Guys, you need to surround yourself with godly friends, people that love the Lord, want to love the Lord, that want a relationship with the Lord. Now, that doesn't mean you isolate everybody else. You should love everybody. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter what the color of their skin is. What they believe. Doesn't matter if they're Muslim. It doesn't matter if they're atheists. You need to love everybody. But watch who you keep closest to you. That's the most important thing. I'll definitely say that friends, they can either make you or break you. They can bring you down, or they can build you up. So keep that in mind. And so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Change your music to change your attitude. Now, many of you aren't going to like hearing this. Many of you like listening to your Lil Wayne. Your what's a big rock group now?
Power Man 5000.
What was that?
Power Man 5000.
Power Man 5000. Okay. I haven't heard of them. Avenged Sevenfold. That's one of my favorites. Aerosmith. I think Josh mentioned that last Sunday. I have also made a mixed CD for my wife with Aerosmith on it.
There you
You
go.
gotta have it.
Yeah,
Find a way
absolutely.
to a woman's heart. Aerosmith.
Absolutely.
But guys, the thing is, you don't want to surround yourself with only those things. You want to have positive influence in your life. You want to have positive music in your life. Even if you don't listen to Caleb, I personally don't listen to Caleb that much.
Amen.
Find something that you like. Find some Christian rap you like. Find some Christian rock that you like. Find some country songs,
Oh.
with a Christian with a Christian message.
Oh.
There's a little something for everybody. There really is. There's some great Christian artists out there. At one point, I'll admit there was a little, it's a little lacking for contemporary music for a long time. You had chorus hymns and gospel, which those are all great things. I enjoy those. But, we all like a little contemporary. So, definitely try to mix in some positive music. You'd be surprised how music can change not only your spiritual walk, but your attitude. Music can make you angry. You ever listen to some hardcore music for a while and just hardcore music, and you kind of get a little angry. You have a little edge to you. I know I do. So watch what you listen to. That doesn't really make sense. But
No, that's good.
but be careful the music you select. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. Consistently spend time with God and let your church be your training ground.
Ooh. Preach.
Consistently
Come on.
spending time with God, that's the number one thing. I thought about put God first is my blank, but I was like, I'm going to get knocked on that. That's too simple. But when it comes down to it, the simplest things are usually the truest things.
That's good.
Putting God first is going to change all these areas. You put God first, the music you listen to is going to change. You put God first, your friends are going to change. Because you're going to choose your friends according to what God would want you to do. So always put God first. Say a prayer. I know people say, don't just pray in the morning. Don't just pray after you eat. Don't just pray when you go to bed. But you know what? I don't do that. I don't even do that sometimes. I don't even get up and pray. I don't even pray and bless my food. I don't even pray before I go to bed. So spend at least some time with God, even if it is after a meal, even if it is in the morning or at night before you go to bed. Speak to God. Talk to Him. Telling your problems. Because He's always going to be there. God's never, He's never going to leave you. He's never going to forsake you. You may leave Him for a little while, but He will always be in that same place.
That's good.
So reach out to Him consistently. And the next thing really ties in. Let your church be your training ground. What you guys have here on Wednesday night is special. Some kids at other churches, they don't have that. We don't have a youth group gets together on Wednesday nights. They can fellowship with each other and talk to each other about problems. Come hear the word. Come play a few games. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to come play a few games with, with fellow Christians. We don't have to just sit around and talk all the time. Let's go shoot some basketball. Let's go throw the football around. Let's go to the movies. Let's have a good time together. Let's fellowship. But at the same time, let your church be your training ground. I actually went to Marine Corps officer candidates. That is probably some of the most intense training on the planet. And that's why the Marine Corps is one of the finest fighting forces on this planet. They prepare you for any situation you might encounter. They put you through some stress. They teach you how to deal with fear. And believe me, they teach you how to deal with the physical stress too. You don't get much sleep, and you run more miles than you ever will in your life. It is torture. It's a mental game. It's a physical game. They prepare you for every aspect of battle. And then even the little things. When you go eat lunch or dinner, you better have those feet together at a 45 degree. The hand you're not eating with, better have all your fingers together on your knee. You better be sitting up straight, and you better eat with one hand at one time. And bring the food all the way up to your mouth. You better not lean over, and you better not make a mess. It's all about the discipline. They teach you everything about battle. But that's the thing about church. And guys, you don't have to learn everything from church. You don't actually have to come to church to have a relationship with God. You can stay at home and study the Word. And you should. You should take time out of your day to have quiet time. Study the Word. Talk to God. But coming to church kind of keeps you grounded. You commit that time every week to spend with God. It's not like you get some award for coming. But when you take that time every week to spend with God, you're giving a little bit of yourself. You're saying, God, you're important to me, so I'm going to go to church today, and I'm going to worship you, and I'm going to focus on your word for a few minutes. The church is definitely important. So let's go ahead and move to our last point. And it's another very, very simple thing. I'm a simple man. So I like to stick with the simple stuff. Never, never, never give up. This series was called Ready to Rumble. Life as a Christian is a battle. And you will battle, and you'll probably achieve some victories. And ultimately, we're going to achieve the ultimate. We're going to achieve the ultimate victory.
That's right.
If you're on God's side, God's battle's already over. It's won.
Oh.
We're on the winning team. That's the awesome thing about it. But along the way, you're going to fail. I hate to say it, but you will fail. You're human. You aren't God. But you know what? If you have God on your side, you'll recover. God will pick you up. There is nothing on this earth that God will not pick you up out of. He'll pick you up out of the mud. I've seen grown men at rock bottom. Drug addicts, people that spent most of their life in the strip club, they gambled away all their money. I've seen men with really, really tough challenges, brought to tears. I saw a man, he was probably about 6'5" and almost 400 pounds, falling like a baby because the Lord had broken down. The Lord had saved him. The Lord had forgiven all the nasty, horrible stuff he had done in his life. And that was a humbling thing. And God will save you. All you got to do is ask for Him to come into your life. Ask for Him to come save you. You know, confess your sins. You know, believe that Jesus is God's Son and came to die for your sins. That's all you got to do. Guys, don't give up the fight. Don't give it up.